My name is Christianah Morrison, and I'm 32 years old. The phone call that shattered my reality came on a Tuesday afternoon while I was reviewing spreadsheets in my Portland apartment. I'm a forensic accountant, which means I spend my days tracking money that people don't want found, following paper trails that lead to fraud, embezzlement, and lies. I'm good at spotting patterns others miss, at seeing the truth hidden beneath layers of deception that I never thought I'd need those skills to investigate my own family. Christianah, sweetheart. Dad's voice crackled through my phone, warm and familiar. I know you said you'd visit this weekend, but you were just here last month. Can't an old man get a break? My fingers froze on my keyboard. What do you mean I was just there? He laughed, that gentle chuckle I'd known my whole life. Don't be silly. You came last month, brought me those chocolate chip cookies I love. We watched the Super Bowl together, remember? You wore that blue sweater, the one your mother used to say matched your eyes. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of my desk, my coffee mug forgotten, the Excel formulas on my screen blurring into meaningless numbers. I didn't bake cookies. I could barely make toast without setting off the smoke alarm. And I'd watched the Super Bowl at McGillicuddy's bar on Northwest 23rd with my coworkers. Not in Phoenix. Not with Dad. Dad, I haven't been to Phoenix since Thanksgiving. That was 3 months ago. Silence stretched between us. When he spoke again, his voice carried that edge of confusion I'd been hearing more often lately. But you were here. I'm sure of it. We talked about the cabin, about your mother. You brought the cookies in that old container, the one with Linda's handwriting. Mom's container, the one I'd left at the family house in Denver years. Why heart hammered against my ribs. Dad, what did this person look like? What do you mean, what did she look like? She looked like you, Christianah. Same hair, same smile. She even had that little dimple on her left cheek when she laughed. Called me Pops just like you do. Someone was impersonating me. The thought crystallized with absolute clarity, cold and terrifying. Someone had walked into Desert Springs Assisted Living, signed my name, brought cookies in my dead mother's container, and convinced my father they were his daughter. Why mine jumped immediately to Nicole. My half-sister, 2 years younger, blonde where I was brunette, with Dad's blue eyes instead of Mom's green. We hadn't spoken since Mom's funeral 2 years ago, not since she'd stood in the lawyer's office, red-faced and shaking, pointing her finger at me like a weapon. You manipulated him, she'd screamed. Dad would never leave the Big Bear cabin, just to you. You poisoned Mom against me, turned her against her own daughter, and now you're stealing what should be mine. The cabin had been Mom's, inherited from her parents, left to me in her will, not split between Nicole and me, just me. Nicole had never forgiven that. She'd accused me of twisting Mom's final wishes, of playing the devoted daughter while she, Nicole, had been cast aside that we'd been close once before Dad's divorce from Nicole's mother when I was 12, before the blended family fractured into pieces, before Mom died and divided us completely, but Nicole looked nothing like me. Dad, even with his worsening dementia, wouldn't confuse his blonde, blue-eyed daughter for his brunette, green-eyed one. Would he? Dad, I need you to think carefully. This woman who visited, did she show you any identification? Did she sign in at the front desk? Of course she signed in. They make everyone sign in. Security, you know. His voice brightened, pleased to remember this detail. She had that fancy pen you always carry, the silver one. I looked down at my desk. My silver Mont Blanc pen, a gift from my first major client, sat exactly where I'd left it this morning. I'm coming to Phoenix, I said, already pulling up flight options on my laptop. Don't tell anyone I'm coming, Dad. Not the staff, not anyone who visits. Can you do that for me? Christianah, you're worrying over nothing. Your visit was lovely. The cookies were delicious. Dad, please. This is important. He sighed. All right, sweetheart. Whatever you say. But you're being paranoid. After we hung up, I sat in my apartment, surrounded by the evidence of my carefully built life. Framed CPA certificate on the wall. Client contracts stacked neatly on my desk. Tax returns from last year showing income that would make Nicole choke if she knew I'd worked for everything I had. Built my forensic accounting practice from nothing. Made a name for myself tracking fraud for law firms and corporations across the Pacific Northwest. I'd earned that cabin through years of being there for Mom while Nicole drifted in and out of our lives. Through countless weekends driving to Big Bear to help Mom maintain the property. Through being present. And now someone was stealing my identity. Walking around with my face, my name, my history. Visiting my father and feeding him false memories while his mind slowly betrayed him that I pulled up my calendar. The Phoenix trip would cost me 2 client meetings and a deposition testimony. I didn't care. Someone was impersonating me, and I had exactly the skills to find out who did. I grabbed my phone and texted my assistant. Cancel everything this week. Family emergency. Then I booked a flight for first thing tomorrow morning. But even as I typed in my credit card information, my accounting brain was already working, asking the questions I'd learned to ask after a decade of following money trails. Who benefits from impersonating me? What's the end game? What are they really after? Dad's bank account, the cabin, his will, his trust. Everything suddenly felt vulnerable. Exposed that I opened my laptop and logged into Dad's bank account. He'd given me power of attorney last year when the dementia diagnosis came, worried he'd forget to pay bills or fall victim to scams. I reviewed the statements, my practiced scanning for anomalies, their monthly withdrawals. $3,000 every month for the past 14 months. Transferred to an account I didn't recognize. $42,000. Gone. My hand started shaking, but not from fear. From rage. Someone had been systematically stealing from my father while he slowly lost the ability to remember. Someone who'd gotten close enough to learn family secrets, to know about the cookies, about Mom's container, about the nickname only Dad used. Someone who looked enough like me to fool an old man with dementia. I pulled up MapQuest and calculated the drive. 12 hours from Portland to Phoenix if I left now. 12 hours to think, to plan, to prepare for whatever I was about to discover, because one thing my job had taught me, financial fraud is never just about money. It's personal. It's intimate. It requires knowledge, access, and trust. Whoever was impersonating me knew our family, knew our history, knew exactly which wounds to press on. I stood up, grabbed my go bag from the closet, and headed for my car. The flight could wait. I needed those 12 hours to think, to remember, to figure out who would know enough about the Morrison family to steal my face. I merged onto I-5 South. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Heard you're asking questions about Dad's visitor. Stay out of it, Christianah. Some family secrets should stay buried. And why blood when cold? They knew I knew. And they were watching. The memory of Mom's funeral hit me as I crossed the Arizona state line. Miles of desert highway stretching ahead. 2 years ago, late March, cherry blossoms falling like snow outside the chapel in Denver. Mom was only 58 when her heart gave out, sudden and brutal, collapsing in her craft room while working on one of her quilts. I'd found her, driven up to Big Bear for our monthly weekend together, let myself in with my key, called out for her. The silence had been wrong, heavy with something I couldn't name. She was on the floor, surrounded by fabric squares and shades of blue and green, her reading glasses still perched on her nose. The funeral was 3 days later. Dad flew in from Phoenix, confused about why Linda wasn't answering her phone, his dementia already making it hard for him to process her death. Nicole arrived late, wearing black Prada and sunglasses that hid her eyes but not her rage. The explosion came at the lawyer's office 2 days after we buried Mom. Attorney Mitchell had read the will in his downtown Denver office, his voice steady and professional as he outlined Mom's wishes. The house in Denver to be split between both daughters. Mom's retirement accounts split evenly. Her personal effects, jewelry, photographs, divided fairly. Then came the cabin. The Big Bear property, including all structures, land, and contents. I leave solely to my daughter Christianah Morrison, and Nicole's head snapped up. What? Solely to Christianah, Attorney Mitchell repeated. Your mother was very clear about this provision. She left a letter explaining her reasoning. If you'd like to read it. I don't need to read it. Nicole's voice was ice. She turned to me, those blue eyes blazing. You did this. You manipulated her. Nicole, I didn't. Don't lie to me. She was on her feet, pointing at me like I'd committed murder. You were always Mom's favorite, always playing the devoted daughter, driving up every month, helping with repairs, making yourself indispensable. You poisoned her against me. That's not fair, I said quietly. You know Mom wanted you to visit more. She begged you to come to Big Bear. I had a life. I had a career in Los Angeles. I couldn't just drop everything to play handyman at some cabin in the woods. Her voice cracked. That cabin belonged to her parents. It should be split between us, between both her daughters. Attorney Mitchell cleared his throat. Your mother's letter addresses this. She felt that Christianah had maintained a relationship with the property and would preserve it as a family legacy. She wanted it to remain intact, not sold or divided. Family legacy. Nicole laughed, bitter and sharp. The only family that matters to Mom was Christianah. Perfect Christianah with her accounting degree and her sensible car and her boring life. I was never good enough for either of you. Nicole, that's not true. Isn't it? She grabbed her Gucci bag, designer everything, the life she'd built in LA that kept her too busy for weekend visits. You wanted me out of the picture, and now you have what you wanted. I hope you're happy, Christianah. I hope that cabin was worth losing your sister. She walked out. I hadn't heard from her since, not even a text. 2 years of silence, of absence, of anger festering between us. Now, driving through the desert, I wondered. Nicole was furious about the cabin. Furious enough to steal from Dad? To impersonate me? But she looked nothing like me. Even Dad's failing memory couldn't confuse a blonde with a brunette, could it? I pulled into a rest stop outside Flagstaff and opened my laptop, connecting to my phone's hotspot. Dad's bank statements were still pulled up from yesterday. Those mysterious withdrawals glaring at me from the screen point $3,000. Every month. Like clockwork, I pulled up my forensic accounting software, the same program I used to track financial crimes for clients. Started building a timeline. The first withdrawal hit Dad's account 14 months ago. Transferred to account number ending in 7743 at Desert Community Bank. I cross-referenced the timing. 14 months ago was right after Dad moved into Desert Springs assisted living. Right after his diagnosis got worse and I'd arranged for professional care. Right when he became vulnerable, the assisted living fees were separate, automatically withdrawn from a different account. These $3,000 transfers were something else entirely. Extra. Hidden. I pulled up property records for Scottsdale, searching for any connection to that account number. Banks wouldn't give me account holder information without a subpoena, but I had other ways of tracking money. Years of finding hidden assets for divorce lawyers and fraud cases had taught me how to follow financial footprints. The account number led to a P.O. box. Box 847, Scottsdale, Maine Post Office. I plugged that into my database, cross-referencing with business registrations, tax liens, any public record that might show who rented that box. Nothing. A dead end. But dead ends in financial investigations usually mean someone's trying to hide something. The absence of information is information itself. I pulled up Dad's credit cards next. No unusual charges. His Social Security deposits came in regularly. The assisted living facility had their own documentation showing proper care and transparent billing. This wasn't the facility stealing. This was personal. Someone with access to Dad's account information. Someone who knew enough to set up automated transfers that would fly under the radar. $3,000 was enough to be significant, but not so much that it triggered automatic fraud alerts. Whoever was doing this understood banking. Understood how to steal without setting off alarms. That I saved all the documentation to my encrypted drive, organized by date, cross-referenced by transaction type. Evidence. I was building a case without even knowing yet who I was building it against. Why phone buzzed. Text from my assistant. 3 clients called asking about rescheduling. Everything okay? I typed back. Family emergency. Will explain later. Family. The word felt hollow now. What was family when someone was wearing your face and stealing from your father? I made it to Phoenix by 2 a.m., checked into a Holiday Inn near Dad's facility, and crashed for 5 hours. At 7 a.m., I was on the phone with the Denver Fire Marshal's office. I need information about a house fire from 18 months ago. I told the clerk, who answered. 1247 Maple Street, Denver. The Morrison property. 1 moment, please. Hold music. I paced my hotel room, coffee in hand, watching the Arizona sunrise paint the sky orange and pink. Ma'am, I have the report pulled up. Fire originated in a back bedroom. Ruled accidental. Electrical malfunction in a space heater. Can you send me the full report? Are you the property owner? One of them, Christianah Morrison. I gave her my information. Waited while she verified. 10 minutes later, the report hit my email. I pulled it up, scanning through the technical language, looking for what my instincts told me was there. Fire started in Mom's old craft room. The space heater story made sense on the surface. Mom kept it cold in that room to preserve her fabric. Always had a heater running in winter, except the fire happened in July. In Denver, when temperatures hit 85 degrees and nobody needed heat, that I kept reading. The arson investigator's notes were buried on page 7. Point of origin inconsistent with space heater placement as described by neighbors. Accelerant residue detected near doorframe. Further investigation recommended. But the case was closed, stamped with accidental cause, no suspicious circumstances. I pulled up the property insurance payout. $280,000, paid to the estate 6 weeks after the fire. Mom's house, the one she'd lived in for 30 years, reduced to ash and a check. The house had been left to both Nicole and me in the will. We were supposed to sell it, split the proceeds. The insurance money went into the estate account, still sitting there because Nicole and I couldn't agree on anything long enough to close out Mom's affairs. I checked the date of the fire against my calendar. July 15th, 18 months ago. 1 month after Mom's funeral. Why blood went cold. Mom died in June. The house burned in July. Someone had waited just long enough for the estate to settle, for the property to transfer to Nicole and me, and then destroyed it. Insurance fraud? Maybe. But why burn down a house worth more than the insurance payout? Mom's house was in a good Denver neighborhood, property values climbing. We could have sold it for $350,000, maybe more, unless someone didn't want us to sell it. Didn't want anyone going through Mom's things, finding something hidden in that house. What were you hiding, Mom? Desert Springs Assisted Living was nicer than most facilities I'd visited during my research. Cream-colored walls, artwork that didn't look institutional, staff who smiled and made eye contact. Dad's room was on the 2nd floor, south-facing, with a view of the courtyard garden that I found him in the common room, watching the Food Network with 3 other residents. He looked older than I remembered, thinner. His hair had gone completely white, his shoulders hunched in the blue cardigan I'd bought him last Christmas. "Pops," I said softly as he turned, and for a moment confusion clouded his face. Then recognition sparked. "Christianah? But you were just... When did you get here?" "I drove all night. We need to talk." We went to his room. I'd arranged it myself when he moved in, brought photos from home, his favorite chair, the quilt Mom had made him for their 20th anniversary. Everything designed to keep his memories alive, to anchor him when his mind drifted. Now I wondered what else those memories contained. "Dad, you said someone who looked like me visited last month." "Can you tell me more about that?" He settled into his chair, hands folded in his lap. For a moment his eyes were clear, focused. These windows of clarity came and went, the doctors had explained. Moments when the fog lifted and he was fully present. "She brought the cookies," he said slowly. "In Linda's container. The blue one with flowers. What did you talk about?" She asked about Linda. About when we first met, how I proposed. Things only Linda and I knew. His face crumpled. For a minute I thought maybe Linda had come back. That maybe I'd gotten confused about the funeral. My throat tightened. "What else did she bring?" "Photo albums. The old ones from when you girls were little. She wanted to look through them with me. Said she was feeling nostalgic." He pointed to his desk. "She left something in my drawer. Said it was for safety, that I should keep it hidden." Did I open the desk drawer? Beneath a stack of crossword puzzles, I found a small brass key. Old-fashioned, the kind that opened antique locks. No markings, no indication of what it opened. Did she say what this was for? Dad's face clouded again, the clarity fading. "Linda had a box. At the cabin. She kept secrets in that box." What kind of secrets? But he was gone, slipping back into the fog. "Is it time for lunch?" "They have pot roast on Thursdays." Linda loves pot roast. That I squeezed his hand, fighting tears. "I love you. Pop Stut, I love you too, sweetheart. Will you visit again soon?" "It gets lonely here. I'll visit every day while I'm in Phoenix." I spent the next 3 hours with him, waiting for another clear moment. He talked about Linda like she was still alive, about me and Nicole as children, about a life that no longer existed. But in the fragments, I caught hints of something else. "Linda was worried," he said at one point. "Worried about Diane. Said Diane was trouble, always had been Diane." A name I barely remembered. "Mom's half-sister." Someone I'd met maybe twice as a child. Family we didn't talk to, didn't visit. Why was Mom worried about Diane? But the moment had passed, and Dad was asking about dinner, about whether I'd seen his favorite show, that I left him watching Wheel of Fortune. My mind racing with questions. Who was Diane? And what did she have to do with Mom's secrets? The facility director's office was all beige and potted plants, certificates on the wall about elder care excellence. Maria Gonzalez listened to my story with increasing concern, her fingers drumming on her desk. "We take resident safety very seriously, Ms. Morrison. If someone has been impersonating you, I need to see the security footage from her last visit. My father said it was about a month ago." She pulled up the system, scrolling through dates. "Here, February 18th, 2:47 p.m. Christianah Morrison signed in. The video showed the front entrance, black and white, grainy but clear enough. A woman approached the desk, head down, wearing sunglasses and a wide-brimmed hat. Face mask covering her nose and mouth, the kind people still wore post-COVID, but I could see her build. My height, my frame. Same way of walking. That slight roll to the left that came from an old running injury. She signed the visitor log, the pen moving in practice strokes. The receptionist barely glanced at her, used to seeing me visit, assuming this was just another family check-in. "Can you follow her movement through the facility?" Maria switched cameras. The hallway leading to Dad's wing. The woman carrying a tote bag, moving with confidence. She knew where she was going. Camera 3 showed her entering Dad's room. 90 minutes passed. Then she emerged, the tote bag bulging more than when she'd entered. What was she carrying? I asked. "I don't know. We don't search visitors' belongings unless there's a specific security concern." The final camera showed her at the exit, signing out. Christianah Morrison, for 15 p.m. departure. Same walk. Same build. But those sunglasses never came off, that mask never lowered. She'd been careful, covering her face while leaving just enough visible to seem normal. "Dad's laptop," I said. "He used to keep it on his desk. Where is it now?" Maria checked her records. "We don't have an inventory of personal electronics. Residents bring their own devices." I went back to Dad's room. Searched his desk, his closet, under his bed. No laptop. The space where it usually sat was empty. a rectangle of dust marking where it had been. Gone. Along with whatever information was stored on it, that laptop contained everything. Family photos going back 40 years, scanned documents from Mom's files, Dad's financial records, passwords to his email and bank accounts. His entire digital life, now in the hands of whoever was impersonating me, that I called my IT security consultant, a former hacker who now helped me track digital fraud. Trevor, I need you to do something that might not be strictly legal. Why favorite kind of request? What do you need? I explained the situation. The stolen laptop, the impersonation, the missing money. If your dad had cloud backup, I might be able to track activity on his accounts, Trevor said. Email, cloud storage, anything synced. Give me his login information. I send him Dad's credentials. Waited while he worked his magic point 15 minutes later. He called back. Got something. His email account shows login activity from a Scottsdale IP address. Logged in multiple times over the past 6 weeks, mostly downloading attachments and forwarding messages to an external address. Can you trace that external address? It's a burner email created through a VPN. Professional setup. Whoever's doing this knows how to cover their tracks. What were they looking for in his email? Mostly financial stuff. Bank statements, investment records, property documents. They forwarded everything related to his assets and estate planning. Why stomach clenched? This wasn't just theft. This was someone mapping out Dad's entire financial life, cataloging what he owned, figuring out how to steal it all. I filed a police report that afternoon at the Phoenix PD's Financial Crimes Division. Detective Rivera was mid-40s, sharp-eyed, with the tired look of someone who'd seen this too many times. Identity theft targeting the elderly, he said, typing notes into his computer. We see it more often than you'd think. Family members, caretakers, even other residents sometimes. The dementia makes them vulnerable. They can't remember who really visited, who they gave information to. This feels personal, I said. Not random. Most identity theft is personal. It requires access, knowledge of the victim's life. Random scammers don't know your childhood nickname or what container your mother used for cookies. He took my statement, copied the security footage, documented the stolen laptop and the missing money. Professional, thorough, but I could see it in his eyes. Cases like this rarely ended in arrest. The perpetrators were careful, the evidence circumstantial. I'll investigate, Ms. Morrison, but I want to be honest with you. Unless we catch them in the act or find direct evidence linking them to the fraud, prosecution is difficult, especially with your father's dementia. His testimony won't hold up in court. They just get away with it. I didn't say that. I said it's difficult, not impossible. He handed me his card. Call me if anything else happens. Any contact from the imposter, any more unusual activity. The more evidence we gather, the stronger the case that I left the station feeling hollow. Someone had stolen my identity, my father's money, his laptop, and the police essentially said there was nothing they could do unless I caught the person myself. Fine. I'd caught fraudsters before. This one just happened to be wearing my face to why phone buzzed at 9 p.m. while I was reviewing Dad's financial records in my hotel room. Unknown number, Los Angeles area code that I almost didn't answer. Then something made me pick up. Christianah. Nicole's voice, tight with tension. We need to talk. Now 0.2 years of silence, broken by 4 words. Nicole, meet me tomorrow. Phoenix. I'm flying in tonight. She rattled off the name of a coffee shop in Scottsdale, a neutral location. Noon. Come alone. What's this about? You'll understand when I show you. Don't tell anyone you're meeting me. Not Dad, not anyone. She hung up before I could respond. That I stared at my phone, my mind racing. Nicole, calling after 2 years of nothing. Nicole, flying to Phoenix urgently. Nicole, who'd looked at me with pure hatred at Mom's funeral and blamed me for stealing her inheritance. Was she involved? Was this whole elaborate scheme Nicole's revenge for the cabin? I didn't sleep that night. Spent hours scrolling through Nicole's social media, what little I could see behind privacy settings. Her Instagram showed the life she'd built in LA. PR executive, trendy restaurants, gallery openings, designer clothes, expensive trips, the kind of lifestyle that required serious money. Was that money coming from Dad's account? The next morning, I arrived at the coffee shop 30 minutes early. Chose a seat with clear sight lines to both entrances. Old habits from my forensic accounting work. Interviews with hostile witnesses who sometimes got aggressive when confronted with evidence of fraud. Nicole walked in at 12:03, wearing jeans and a UCLA sweatshirt, no makeup, her blonde hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked exhausted, dark circles under those blue eyes. She saw me, hesitated, then walked over and sat down without greeting. "Someone's been stealing my identity," she said without preamble. For the past 18 months, why carefully prepared suspicions crumbled. "What?" She pulled out a folder, spread documents across the table. Credit card statements, collection notices, police reports. 3 credit cards I never opened, maxed out to $60,000. My credit score tanked. I'm being sued by 2 collection agencies that I looked at the statements. Cards opened in Nicole's name. Billing address at a Scottsdale P.O. box I recognized. Box 847. The same box receiving Dad's stolen money. When did you first notice? I asked 6 months ago. Started getting calls from debt collectors. I thought it was a mistake. Then the police showed up at my work asking about fraudulent charges. Her voice cracked. I've spent months trying to clear this up. Prove I didn't open these accounts. My firm put me on probation. Said identity theft showed poor judgment, made me a security risk. She looked up, and I saw something I'd never seen in Nicole before. Fear. Real, genuine fear. Christianah, someone is destroying my life. And I think... She pulled out another document. A printed email. I think they're destroying yours too. The email was from a mortgage company congratulating Christianah Morrison on the approval of a $400,000 home loan. Property address in Scottsdale. Closing date set for next month. That I didn't apply for this, I said I know. Because I got one too. She showed me an identical email in her name. Same amount, same bank, same closing date. Someone wasn't just stealing our identities. They were building new lives in our names, taking out massive loans, racking up debt, all while draining Dad's account. I pulled out my phone and showed her the photo from Dad's cookie container. The woman who looked like me, standing in front of our burned Denver house. Nicole went pale. That's not you, no. But Dad thought it was. Someone's been impersonating me, visiting him, stealing his laptop and his money. Oh my God. Nicole stared at the photo. Christianah, look at her. Really look. I zoomed in on the woman's face. The features were slightly off, like a copy that wasn't quite right. Close enough to fool an old man with dementia, but not perfect. She looks like both of us, Nicole whispered. Like someone took our features and blended them together. We moved to Nicole's rental car. More privacy to compare notes. The past 2 years of silence fell away as we talked, information pouring out, puzzle pieces clicking into place, and why apartment was broken into 6 months ago, Nicole said. Nothing valuable taken. TV and laptop still there. Jewelry box untouched. Police said maybe I'd scared them off, but what was taken? Photo albums. My birth certificate, social security card, passport. All my identity documents. I thought maybe it was someone planning to file fake tax returns. They were building a portfolio. I said, my forensic accounting brain fitting the pieces together. Everything they'd need to become you. Photos to practice mimicking your appearance, documents to open accounts, personal history to answer security questions. Nicole pulled out her own folder of evidence. I hired a private investigator last month. Cost me $5,000 I couldn't afford. He found this. She showed me a surveillance photo. A woman entering a Scottsdale apartment complex. Arms full of shopping bags. Face partially visible. Features that could be mine or Nicole's or some unsettling combination of both. Who is she? The PI couldn't get a name. The apartment's rented under an LLC, owners hidden behind shell companies. Very professional setup that I pulled up the financial records I built on Dad's stolen money. Your credit cards, Dad's withdrawals, they all lead back to the same place. P.O. Box 847 in Scottsdale. Someone's running a systematic operation, targeting our entire family. Why us? Nicole asked. Why our family specifically? The cabin, I said slowly, the house in Denver. Mom's estate. Someone who knows about the inheritance, who knows the family history. Nicole's face went white. The house fire. Christianah, what if the fire wasn't random? What if someone burned it deliberately? I pulled the fire marshal's report. They found accelerant, recommended further investigation. But the case was closed as accidental point 1 month after Mom died, Nicole said. Right after the will was read. Right after we inherited the property, we sat in silence, the weight of it settling over us. This wasn't random identity theft. This was targeted, personal, planned over years. We haven't spoken in 2 years, I said quietly. We've been so busy hating each other that we never compared notes, never realized we were both being victimized. I blamed you for the cabin, Nicole said, voice small. Blamed you for Mom choosing favorites. I was so angry I didn't see what was really happening. I shut you out, stopped trying to reach you because it hurt too much. I looked at her, really looked at my sister for the first time since the funeral. Nicole, I think someone wanted us divided, wanted us not talking to each other, because together we'd figure it out. I pulled out my laptop. I'm a forensic accountant. You work in PR and legal compliance. Between us, we have the skills to track this person down. Nicole straightened, some of her old fire returning. What do you need? Everything. Every document, every piece of evidence. We build a timeline, track the financial trail, find out who's been stealing our lives. We spread out the evidence across the hood of her rental car. Credit card statements, bank records, police reports, security footage. 2 years of theft and fraud. Mapped out in front of us. There's something else, I said. Dad mentioned a name yesterday. Diane. Mom's half-sister. Said Mom was worried about her, called her trouble. Nicole frowned. I barely remember Diane. Didn't we meet her once or twice when we were kids? Mom never talked about her. I always assumed they weren't close. What if there's a reason Mom didn't talk about her? Nicole pulled out her phone. Give me her full name. I'll run a background check. Diane Morrison. Or maybe Diane something else if she married. Nicole typed rapidly, her PR skills including knowing how to dig up information on people. 5 minutes later, she'd found a LinkedIn profile. Diane Morrison. Real estate agent in Scottsdale. Age 62. Nicole showed me the photo. A woman with features that looked vaguely familiar. Dark hair going gray, sharp eyes. She lives in Scottsdale, I said slowly. Same city as that P.O. box. Same city as the apartment the PI found. Nicole kept scrolling. Her LinkedIn hasn't been updated in 2 years. No recent activity. But look at this. She filed for bankruptcy 3 years ago. Lost her real estate license for 18 months due to fraud allegations. Fraud. She was accused of falsifying documents for clients, taking deposits for properties that didn't exist. Never prosecuted, but the real estate board suspended her. Nicole looked up. Christianah, what if Aunt Diane isn't just connected to this? What if she's behind it? Have you figured it out yet? Because I was about to discover that the person stealing my identity wasn't just after money. They wanted my entire life, and they'd been planning it for longer than I could imagine. If this story is keeping you on the edge of your seat, show some love with a like. And drop a comment. Have you ever been a victim of identity theft? Your story might help someone else spot the warning signs that Dad's room at Desert Springs held more than furniture and photographs. Tucked in his closet behind winter coats he'd never wear in Arizona, I found 3 cardboard boxes labeled Linda's papers in my own handwriting from when I'd moved him here. I'd packed them myself, thinking Dad might want Mom's documents nearby, her presence in paper form. Now I pulled them out, one by one, spreading their contents across his bed while he napped in his chair. Tax returns from 20 years ago. Recipe cards in Mom's precise script. Birthday cards Nicole and I had made as children, construction paper and glitter glue. A stack of photos held together with a rubber band, so old it crumbled when I touched it. The photos were old. Colors faded to that distinctive 70s amber tone. Mom as a young woman, maybe 25, standing outside a house I didn't recognize. Mom at someone's wedding, wearing a peach dress with shoulder pads. Mom with a woman I'd never seen before, both of them laughing, arms around each other's shoulders. I flipped the photo over. Mom's handwriting on the back. Linda and Diane, Big Bear, 1998. Diane. The name Dad had mentioned yesterday, the name Nicole, and I had just discovered on LinkedIn that I looked closer at the woman next to Mom. Older, maybe by 10 years. Same dark hair, same bone structure, but harder somehow. The smile didn't reach her eyes. Dad, I said softly, waking him. Do you know who this is? He blinked awake, took the photo in trembling hands. For a moment, nothing. His eyes unfocused, lost in the fog. Then, suddenly sharp, present. Diane, he said, and his voice carried weight. Haven't seen her in years. Linda didn't like to talk about her. Why not? They were half-sisters, different fathers. Diane was always troubled, always asking Linda for money, making promises she wouldn't keep. He touched the photo, gently. Linda lent her money once. A lot of money. Diane never paid it back. After that, Linda said no more. Said sometimes you have to cut off family to save yourself. When was this? When did Mom lend her money? Dad's clarity was already fading, but he managed. For years ago. 5. Before I moved here. Diane called crying. Said she'd lose her house. Linda wrote her a check. $50,000. 50,000. I grabbed my laptop, pulled up Mom's old bank statements from the digital copies I'd saved. Scrolled back through years of transactions, looking for that amount there. March 2020. Check number 4782. Made out to Diane Morrison. $50,000. Memo line, family loan to be repaid. I cross-referenced the date with public records, 0.2 weeks. After Mom wrote that check, Diane Morrison filed for bankruptcy protection in Arizona. The house she'd supposedly been saving wasn't listed in her bankruptcy petition. It didn't exist. Mom had been scammed by her own sister for $50,000. I pulled up the LinkedIn photo Nicole had found earlier, the real estate agent profile for Diane Morrison. Turned my laptop screen toward Dad. Is this Diane? The woman who's been visiting you? Dad leaned forward, squinting at the screen. The moment he saw the photo, his whole body went rigid. His hands gripped the arms of his chair, knuckles white. That's her, he said, voice shaking. That's the woman. She comes here, says she's Christianah, but sometimes... He trailed off, confused again. Sometimes what, Dad? Sometimes she looks like Linda. Sometimes she looks like you. Her face changes. He looked at me, fear in his eyes. Am I going crazy? Is this the dementia? My heart broke. No, Dad, you're not crazy. This woman has been manipulating you, using your memory problems to confuse you. But I was confused too. Diane was in her 60s, gray hair, completely different build than me. How could Dad possibly mistake her for me, even with dementia? Unless Diane wasn't the one visiting. Unless she had someone else doing the actual impersonation that I pulled out my phone. Showed Dad the security footage screenshot from the facility. The woman in the hat and sunglasses. The one who'd signed in as me. I asked this the woman who visits? Or is this her? I pointed to Diane's LinkedIn photo. Dad stared at both images, his face cycling through confusion and recognition. It's both. Sometimes it's the older woman. Sometimes it's someone younger. They look different, but they talk the same. Know the same things. Diane wasn't working alone. She had an accomplice, someone who could physically pass as me. Someone younger. My phone rang. Nicole! The PI just sent me something. she said without greeting. Diane has a daughter, Valerie Morrison, age 29. And Christianah, you need to see her photo. While Nicole drove to Dad's facility with the PI's report, I dug deeper into Diane's financial history. My forensic accounting software pulled up every public record, every transaction I could legally access. The bankruptcy filing from 3 years ago was devastating. Diane had listed debts totaling $340,000. Credit cards, personal loans, gambling debts to 3 Las Vegas casinos. Assets? Almost nothing. A leased car, rented apartment, no property, no savings. She'd been fired from her real estate job 6 months before filing. License suspended for fraudulent activities. The Arizona Real Estate Board's complaint was public record. Diane Morrison had falsified property documents, collected deposits from clients for houses that were already sold, pocketed earnest money that should have been held in escrow that she'd stolen from her own clients. From people who trusted her to help them buy homes that I kept digging. Found the canceled check from Mom, dated March 2020. The story about losing her house had been a lie. Diane had been desperate for money to pay off gambling debts, and she'd conned her own sister. The bankruptcy discharged most of her debts in September 2020. Clean slate, legally speaking. But that didn't bring back the $50,000 Mom had given her. When Mom died in June 2022, that debt died with her. Diane had no legal obligation to repay it. The money was just gone. A gift from a dead sister to a con artist sibling. But Diane's financial situation hadn't improved after bankruptcy. I found her current address, a cheap apartment in a rough part of Scottsdale. Rental history showed eviction notices from 3 previous addresses. Current landlord had filed a lawsuit for unpaid rent. Diane Morrison was broke, desperate, and had a history of stealing from the people who trusted her. The timeline clicked into place. Mom died June 2022. Within weeks, mysterious withdrawals started from Dad's account. $3,000 a month, every month, going to that P.O. box in Scottsdale. Diane needed money. She'd already proven she'd steal from family, and now she had access to a vulnerable elderly man with dementia who couldn't reliably remember who visited him. Nicole burst into Dad's room, carrying a manila folder, her face flushed. "You need to see this now." She spread photos across Dad's bed. Private investigator surveillance shots, grainy but clear enough. A young woman, late 20s, dark hair, leaving the Scottsdale apartment complex we'd identified earlier. The woman looked like me. Not identical, but close enough to be disturbing. Same height, same build, same hair color. Similar facial features like a cousin or sibling. That's Valerie Morrison, Nicole said. Diane's daughter. Born in Phoenix, 1995. Mother listed as Diane Morrison, father unknown. I stared at the photos. She looks like us. I know. The PI said the same thing. Like someone took your features and mine and created a hybrid. Nicole pulled out more documents. He ran a full background check. Valerie worked in theater for 5 years. Costume design and makeup artistry. Specialized in prosthetics and character transformation. Character transformation, I repeated slowly. Nicole showed me Valerie's resume, obtained through a connection at a theater company. She was good, really good. Won awards for making actors look like different people. Historical figures, celebrities, whatever the production needed. And now she's using those skills to become me. There's more. Nicole pulled up something on her phone. Her last known employment was at the Scottsdale Center for the Arts, makeup department. She quit 2 years ago, right after your mom's funeral. Her exit paperwork cited, pursuing other opportunities. The timing was perfect. Too perfect. Mom dies, Valerie quits her legitimate theater job, and suddenly an imposter who looks exactly like me starts visiting Dad. I pulled up the Internet Archive, the Wayback Machine that preserved old versions of deleted websites. Typed in Valerie Morrison's Instagram handle from the PI's report. Her account was scrubbed now, deleted or made private. But the archive remembered. Snapshots from 3 years ago showed a vibrant social media presence, full of her theater work. Photos of prosthetics she'd created. A young actor transformed into an elderly man. The makeup so realistic you'd never know it was fake. A woman made to look like Marilyn Monroe, uncanny in its accuracy. Before and after shots showing Valerie's skill at changing someone's entire appearance. One caption from April 2021 stopped me cold. Give me 2 hours, a good wig, and the right prosthetics, and I can become anyone. That's the magic of transformation. I zoomed in on the photos. Valerie had the same basic bone structure as me, the same coloring. With her skills, she wouldn't need extensive prosthetics to pass as me to someone with dementia. Just enough alteration to match my features, practice mannerisms, knowledge of family history. She was perfect for the job. And Diane, desperate and criminal, had seen the opportunity. Use her daughter's unique skills to impersonate her niece. Gain access to an elderly man with dementia and steal everything he had. Nicole, look at this. I showed her another old Instagram post. Valerie at a family gathering, standing next to an older woman. Diane, younger in the photo, before the gray hair and financial desperation. The caption read, "Mom always said I could be anything I wanted." Guess she was right. Prophetic words for someone who'd end up stealing identities professionally. Something had been bothering me since I'd first heard about the imposter. The timing, the planning, the knowledge of family secrets that even Nicole and I barely remembered. This conspiracy was too elaborate, too well-coordinated to have started after Mom died. Someone had been planning this while Mom was still alive. I pulled up Arizona vital records online, requested an official copy of Mom's death certificate. It arrived by email within hours, a scanned PDF of the original document, Linda and Morrison. Date of death, June 14th, 2022. Cause, cardiac arrest. Place, Denver, Colorado. Certifying physician, Dr. Patricia Chin. Something about the signature looked wrong. Too smooth, too perfect. I'd reviewed thousands of documents in my forensic accounting work, spotting forged signatures on contracts and checks. This one triggered every alarm in my professional instincts. I called the number listed for Dr. Patricia Chin, expecting voicemail. A woman answered on the third ring. "Hello, Dr. Patricia Chin. Yes, this is Patricia. Who's calling? My name is Christianah Morrison. You signed my mother's death certificate 2 years ago. Linda Morrison. Died of cardiac arrest in Denver." Silence. Then, "I'm sorry, I don't remember that case. I retired 5 years ago and moved to Taiwan. I haven't signed a death certificate since 2019. My stomach dropped. "You're certain?" "Completely certain. I haven't practiced medicine in the United States since my retirement. If my signature appears on a recent death certificate, it's fraudulent. Someone used my credentials illegally." I thanked her and hung up, my hand shaking. Mom's death certificate was forged. The document we'd used for probate, for insurance claims, for closing bank accounts, and transferring property, all of it based on a fake death certificate. I pulled up the funeral home that had handled Mom's service. Peaceful Rest Mortuary in Denver, a small family operation that Mom had prearranged years ago. The website was gone. Domain parked. Business closed. I searched for news articles. Found one from 16 months ago. Denver Post business section. Local funeral director arrested in multi-state fraud scheme. The article detailed how Robert Hendricks, owner of Peaceful Rest Mortuary, had been running an identity theft ring for years. He'd falsify death certificates, provide bodies for fake funerals, help people disappear, or fake their deaths for insurance fraud. The operation had victimized dozens of families across 3 states. Hendricks had been arrested in August 2023, 2 months after Mom's funeral. He'd plea bargained, given up his co-conspirators, and was serving 8 years in federal prison. I called the Denver Police Department, asked to speak to the detective who'd handled the case. Detective Morgan remembered the Peaceful Rest investigation clearly. Hendricks was sophisticated, had connections to get fake death certificates, Could source bodies from medical supply companies that dealt in cadavers for research. He'd match approximate age and appearance, prepare them for viewing, and families never knew the body wasn't their loved one. Why would someone do that? I asked, though I was starting to understand. Insurance fraud, mostly. Fake a death, collect the life insurance, start a new life somewhere else. Sometimes it was people in witness protection who needed to disappear. Sometimes it was people running from debts or relationships. He paused. Why are you asking about this? My mother's funeral was handled by peaceful rest. June 2022. Right before Hendricks was arrested. What was your mother's name? Linda Morrison, that I heard typing. I don't see her name in our victim database, but that doesn't mean she wasn't involved in Hendricks' operation. A lot of his activities went undocumented. He kept 2 sets of books, destroyed evidence. We only recovered a fraction of his records. After we hung up, I sat in my hotel room, the implications crashing over me like waves. The forged death certificate, the corrupt funeral director, the closed casket that opened only at the last minute, Mom's body heavily made up, looking waxen and strange. What if the body we buried wasn't Mom at all? I logged into the probate account I'd set up for Mom's estate, the one Nicole and I were supposed to be closing, but never could agree on. Pulled up the life insurance payout documentation, point 1 policy, through Dad's work benefits. $500,000. Paid to Dad as beneficiary. That money had gone into the estate account, still sitting there untouched while Nicole and I fought over lawyers and paperwork. But my forensic training made me wonder. 1 life insurance policy? Most people had multiple policies, especially someone Mom's age who'd been financially stable, that I called the insurance broker who'd handled the payout, a firm in Denver that specialized in estate planning. Linda Morrison's estate? Let me pull that file. Papers rustling. Yes, we handled the payout on her Northwestern mutual policy. $500,000. Was that her only policy? More rustling. Actually, no. She had a second policy through Banner Life. $300,000 benefit. But that one was paid out to a different beneficiary. Why pulse quickened? Who was the beneficiary? Linda's trust. The payout went directly to the trust, as per the policy terms. We sent the check to the trustee in July 2022. Who's the trustee? Let me see. Diane Morrison. Listed as Linda's sister and designated trustee. $300,000. Paid to Diane Morrison. And neither Nicole nor I had known about it. I pulled up Arizona trust records, searching for anything filed under Linda's name. Found it. Linda's Family Trust, established March 2020, right after Mom had written that $50,000 check to Diane. The trust document was simple. Linda Morrison as grantor, Diane Morrison as trustee, beneficiaries to be determined. Purpose: family asset protection and estate planning, asset protection. Mom had created a trust right after lending Diane money and made Diane the trustee. That made no sense unless Diane had coerced her, threatened her, made the trust creation a condition of the loan, or unless Diane had forged the trust documents entirely. I spread every document across my hotel room bed, building the timeline my forensic training demanded. Every transaction, every date, every connection. March 2020, Mom loans Diane $50,000. Trust established with Diane as trustee. September 2020, Diane files bankruptcy, discharges debts, never repays Mom. June 2022, Mom dies suddenly. Death certificate signed by a retired doctor in Taiwan. Funeral handled by corrupt mortuary, later arrested for fraud. July 2022, Diane collects $300,000 from secret life insurance policy. August 2022, first withdrawal from Dad's account. $3,000 to Scottsdale P.O. Box. September 2022, house in Denver burns down. Arson suspected, but case closed. October 2022, Valerie Morrison quits theater job. Social media goes dark. November 2022, Credit cards opened in Nicole's name. February 2023. First recorded impersonation visit to Dad's facility. Present day. For $100,000 mortgage applications in both Nicole's and my names. Systematic theft of Dad's assets ongoing. Diane had received $300,000 from Mom's death. Within 3 months, that money was gone. Gambling debts, old bills, decades of poor decisions. She'd burned through a fortune and needed more. She'd started stealing from Dad. Used Valerie's skills to impersonate me, gaining access and trust. Set up the P.O. box to receive stolen funds. Opened fraudulent credit lines in Nicole's name when Dad's money wasn't enough. The house fire wasn't random. It destroyed whatever evidence Mom might have left behind. Whatever documents could prove the trust was forged or the insurance policy was fraudulent. And Mom's death itself, I pulled up the forged death certificate again. The corrupt funeral director. The substitute body at the funeral. What if Mom hadn't died of natural causes at all? Nicole arrived at my hotel at midnight, carrying 2 coffees and her own laptop full of evidence. We'd been texting all day, comparing notes, building the case against Diane and Valerie. "I'm sorry," she said as soon as she walked in, "for everything, for blaming you about the cabin, for the things I said at the funeral. You were a victim in this too, and I was so angry I couldn't see it. I'm sorry too. I shut you out when I should have fought to keep us together. That's exactly what Diane wanted us divided and not talking that we hugged, really hugged, for the first time in 2 years. When we pulled apart, Nicole's eyes were wet. She played us perfectly, Nicole said. Got us fighting over the inheritance while she was stealing everything. We were so busy hating each other, we never compared notes, never realized we were both being targeted. Together, we're stronger than she expected. You with your legal knowledge, me with forensic accounting. We can take her down. We spent the next 4 hours building a comprehensive case file. Every document, every transaction, every piece of evidence organized chronologically. Financial records showing Diane's fraud. Security footage of Valerie impersonating me. The forged death certificate. The corrupt funeral home connection. The secret insurance policy. This is enough to get her arrested, Nicole said. Multiple felonies. Identity theft, elder abuse, insurance fraud. It's enough for criminal charges. But Nicole. I pulled up the photo from the cookie container one more time. The woman who looked like me standing in front of our burned house. What if there's more? What if Mom's death wasn't natural? Nicole was quiet for a long moment. You're saying Diane killed her? I'm saying someone faked Mom's death certificate using a corrupt funeral director who specialized in providing fake bodies. I'm saying Diane collected $300,000 from a life insurance policy we didn't know existed. I'm saying the house burned down 1 month later, destroying evidence, but we saw Mom's body. At the funeral, we touched her, did we? I remember the casket being closed until the last minute. The funeral director said there were preservation issues, needed special preparation. When we finally saw her, she was covered in makeup, didn't look quite right. Nicole's face went pale. Christianah, what are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we need to exhume the body in Mom's grave and confirm it's actually her. The silence stretched between us, heavy with implications. If the body wasn't Mom, where was she? Was she alive somewhere and hiding? Or was she dead and buried somewhere else while a stranger lay in her marked grave? There's only one way to find out, Nicole said finally. We need to request an exhumation order. DNA testing, that requires a court order. Evidence of fraud or criminal activity, that we have evidence. All of this. Nicole gestured at our documented case. We bring this to the police, to the district attorney. Show them the pattern of fraud, the corrupt funeral director, the forged death certificate. They'll have to investigate that I pulled out Detective Rivera's card from Phoenix PD. Then found Detective Morgan's information from Denver. Both jurisdictions would need to be involved. Mom died in Denver. The fraud happened in Arizona. Did we do this right? I said. Build the case, present it to law enforcement, let them handle prosecution. But Nicole, we need to be prepared for what we might find. You mean if Mom is really dead? Or if she's not? The conspiracy was bigger than I'd imagined. But here's what Diane and Valerie didn't know. I'm a forensic accountant, and Nicole works in legal compliance. They picked the wrong sisters to mess with. What we did next didn't just expose them, it destroyed the entire fraud ring. If you're loving this story, hit subscribe. We're building a community of people who believe in justice, not revenge. Well, maybe a little revenge. Detective Rivera's office in the Phoenix PD Financial Crimes Unit was exactly what I expected. Metal desk piled with case files, coffee-stained carpet, fluorescent bulbs humming overhead. Nicole and I sat across from him. Our compiled evidence spread between us like ammunition. This is extensive, Rivera said, scrolling through the digital files I'd sent him. Financial fraud, identity theft, elder abuse. The insurance fraud alone is federal. And if what you're suggesting about your mother's death is true, murder, Nicole said flatly. If Diane killed our mother and used a substitute body, that's murder. It's also going to be incredibly difficult to prove without physical evidence. The funeral home owner is in prison. Your mother's death certificate is forged, but we need concrete proof. He looked at both of us. You mentioned wanting to set a trap. I pulled out my laptop. Diane has been monitoring our social media. She knows when we post what we say. That's how she stayed ahead of us, knew we weren't talking to each other. So we use that, Nicole added. We announce a family meeting. Make it public, make it loud. Christianah posts about needing to discuss Dad's estate, his future care arrangements, important family decisions. Diane will panic, I continued. She's been systematically draining Dad's accounts. If she thinks we're about to take control of his finances, review his care, she'll have to show up to protect her access. Rivera leaned back in his chair. And you think she'll bring her daughter? Valerie's been impersonating me to gain access to Dad. If there's a family meeting, she might try to attend as me, especially if she thinks she can manipulate the situation. I pulled up the security footage from Dad's facility. The staff know me, but they've also seen this imposter. They're confused, uncertain. Valerie might count on that confusion. We'll need cooperation from the assisted living facility, Rivera said. Hidden cameras, plainclothes officers positioned as visitors or staff. If Valerie shows up disguised as you, we catch her on camera committing identity fraud in real time. Nicole opened her own laptop. I've already contacted our attorney. She'll be present at the meeting, make everything official. If Diane claims she has rights to be involved in Dad's care, we'll have legal documentation proving she doesn't. What about your father? Rivera asked. Will he understand what's happening? I thought about Dad's clarity moments, those brief windows when the fog lifted. We tell him the truth, that someone's been stealing from him, impersonating his daughter. If he has a clear moment during the meeting, his testimony will be powerful. Rivera nodded slowly. All right, let's do this. But I need you both to understand this is dangerous. You're confronting people who've committed serious crimes, possibly including murder. Diane might react violently if she feels cornered. That's why you'll be there, I said. With backup, when do you want to do this? Nicole and I exchanged glances. Tomorrow, we said together. I posted on Facebook at 8 p.m. Made sure my privacy settings allowed public viewing. Family meeting tomorrow at Desert Springs Assisted Living, 2 p.m. Nicole and I need to discuss Dad's care and estate planning. Important decisions to make about his future. #FamilyFirst, #ElderCare. Within minutes, the post had likes from distant cousins and family friends. Comments offering support, asking if everything was okay. The post was visible to anyone who searched my name, including Diane.B. Why 9 p.m. Rivera had coordinated with Desert Springs management. The facility's conference room would be set up with cameras hidden in smoke detectors and wall clocks. 2 plainclothes officers would be positioned in the common areas, dressed as visitors. A third would pose as a new aide, working the front desk. We'll have eyes on every entrance, Rivera explained during our briefing call. If Valerie shows up, we track her movements. If Diane arrives, same thing. Once they're both inside and we have them on camera committing fraud, I move in. I called Dad that night, late, hoping to catch him during an alert period. He answered on the fourth ring, voice thick with sleep. Pups, it's Christianah. I need to tell you something important. Is everything all right, sweetheart? No, Dad. Someone's been pretending to be me. A woman named Valerie, working with Aunt Diane. They've been stealing from you, manipulating you. Silence. Then his voice came back, sharp and clear. I knew something was wrong. Sometimes I'd see you, and something felt off. But I couldn't put my finger on it. The dementia makes me doubt myself. You're not imagining things, Dad. Tomorrow, Nicole and I are having a meeting at your facility. The woman who's been impersonating me might show up. If she does, I need you to tell the staff she's not me. Can you do that? Get that woman out of my life, Dad said, anger cutting through the confusion. She's not my daughter. My daughter doesn't steal from me. The conference room at Desert Springs was beige and unremarkable, with a long table and 12 chairs. Nicole and I arrived at 1:30 p.m., set up our laptops and documents. Our attorney, Helen Marsh, arrived 5 minutes later carrying her briefcase and a recorder for documentation. Everything's in place, Helen said quietly. If Diane claims any rights to your father's care or estate, I have the legal paperwork proving she has no standing. Detective Rivera texted at 1:45. 2 officers in position. 3rd at front desk. We're recording. At 1:52 p.m., the plainclothes officer posing as a desk aide radioed Rivera. Female matching Christianah Morrison's description, just signed in. Headed toward Michael Morrison's room. My pulse jumped. She's here. Valerie's here. We watched on Rivera's phone. Live feed from the facility's security cameras. A woman in jeans and a gray sweater, hair pulled back, face partially obscured by sunglasses despite being indoors. She walked with my gait, that slight roll to the left. She headed straight for Dad's room, bypassed the conference room entirely. She didn't know about the meeting, was just making another routine visit to maintain access. The camera inside Dad's room showed her entering, closing the door behind her. Dad was in his chair watching television. He looked up when she entered. Hi, Pops, Valerie said, and even through the audio feed, her voice sounded like mine. She'd practiced my speech patterns, my inflections. Just wanted to check in on you. Dad stared at her. For a moment, nothing. Then his face changed, clarity flooding his features. You're not my daughter. Valerie froze. Dad, what are you talking about? It's me, Christianah. No. Dad stood up, shaky but determined. You're the imposter, the one who's been stealing from me. My real daughter told me about you. Valerie's composure cracked. She moved toward Dad's desk, reaching for something. The camera angle shifted, showed her grabbing Dad's spare checkbook from the drawer. I'm just borrowing this, Dad. You said I could. I never said that. Dad's voice rose. Someone help me. This woman is not my daughter. The facility staff responded immediately. 2 aides rushed in, found Valerie standing there with Dad's checkbook in hand, Dad backing away from her with fear on his face. Sir, calm down, one aide said. Christianah, what's going on? I'm not Christianah, Valerie said, but her voice wavered. She's an imposter. Dad shouted, Get her away from me. The aides looked at each other, uncertain. One reached for her radio. Security to room 247. Possible situation with a visitor, Rivera texted, moving in. Keep Diane occupied when she arrives. At 3 p.m., Diane Morrison walked into the conference room without knocking. She was exactly as her LinkedIn photo showed, gray hair, sharp features, expensive blazer that looked wrong on her thin frame. She carried herself with false confidence, the kind that came from years of conning people. I'm Diane Morrison, she announced. Linda's sister. I have rights to be here for any discussion about Michael's care. I stood up calmly, Nicole beside me. Actually, Aunt Diane, we were hoping you'd come. Her eyes narrowed. What's this about? Family business. Estate planning. We thought you should be involved, given how involved you've been in Dad's life lately. I gestured to a chair. Please sit down. Diane sat, but her body language screamed tension. She knew something was wrong, but couldn't figure out what. Helen Marsh introduced herself. I'm the Morrison family attorney, here to ensure all discussions today are properly documented. I don't need a lawyer present, Diane said. This is family. Funny you mention family, Nicole said, because we've been doing some research on family history. Want to see what we found? I turned my laptop screen toward Diane. Security footage from 4 weeks ago, Valerie signing in as me, walking through the facility with that tote bag, emerging 90 minutes later with Dad's laptop. Diane's face went white. I don't know what that is. That's your daughter, Valerie, impersonating me, stealing from our father while his dementia made him vulnerable. I clicked to the next screen. Here's the financial records showing systematic theft from Dad's account. $3,000 a month for 14 months, sent to a P.O. box registered in your name. You can't prove. Here's the forged death certificate for Mom, signed by a doctor who retired 5 years ago. Click. Here's the life insurance payout you collected. $300,000 from a policy we didn't know existed. Click. Here's the trust documentation. Filed the same day Mom lent you $50,000 you never repaid. With each piece of evidence, Diane shrank further into her chair. I can explain, she started. Please do, I said coldly. Explain how you systematically stole from your own family. How you used your daughter to impersonate me. How you manipulated an elderly man with dementia. Diane stood up, heading for the door. It opened before she reached it. Detective Rivera stepped through. Badge visible on his belt, 2 uniformed officers behind him. Diane Morrison, Rivera said. I'm Detective Rivera with Phoenix PD Financial Crimes. We have some questions about fraudulent death certificates, identity theft, and elder financial abuse. Diane tried to push past him. The officers blocked her path. I don't know what you're talking about. These girls are lying, trying to frame me because they're greedy. Sit down, Ms. Morrison. Rivera's voice was steel. We have 14 months of financial records, security footage, and testimony from multiple witnesses. This isn't a frame-up. It's documentation. Nicole pulled out another folder. We also have records showing you filed bankruptcy 3 years ago after defrauding your real estate clients. You were suspended from your profession for stealing deposits and falsifying documents. This isn't your first time committing fraud against people who trusted you. Linda owed me, Diane snapped, her composure finally breaking. She had everything: the house, the cabin, the money. I was struggling, and she refused to help. That $50,000 barely covered my debts. Oh, you killed her for insurance money? I asked quietly. The room went silent. What? No, I didn't. Diane's face cycled through emotions. Linda died of a heart attack. Then why is her death certificate signed by a doctor who wasn't in the country? Why was her funeral handled by a corrupt mortuary owner who specialized in providing fake bodies for insurance fraud? Rivera pulled out his own documentation. We've been in contact with Denver PD. The funeral director, Robert Hendricks, kept records of his illegal activities. Your name appears in his files, Ms. Morrison. The door opened again. 2 facility security guards brought in Valerie, her hands held gently but firmly. She'd been crying, makeup smudged, revealing the prosthetics and contouring that made her face match mine. Mom. Valerie's voice was small. Scared? Don't say anything, Diane hissed. Not a word. But Valerie's eyes found mine, saw herself reflected back. 2 women with the same face, one real and one constructed. She started crying harder. I'm sorry, she sobbed. Mom said it was just borrowing. Said the family owed us, that Linda had stolen from her for years. She said we were just taking back what was rightfully ours. Valerie, shut up! Diane stood, tried to reach her daughter. Rivera stepped between them. Ms. Morrison, you need to sit down. Now, Helen Marsh leaned toward Valerie. You have rights here. You can request an attorney, or you can cooperate with the investigation. Detective Rivera can explain your options. Valerie looked at her mother, then at me and Nicole. I want to cooperate. I don't want to go to prison for what she made me do. With Helen present as witness and the conversation being recorded, Valerie began to talk. Her words came out in a rush. Years of deception pouring out like a broken dam. Mom planned this for 3 years. It started when Grandma Linda refused to give her more money. Mom had gambling debts, owed money to casinos in Vegas. She'd already declared bankruptcy once and couldn't do it again. She asked Linda for $100,000, and Mom said no, Nicole whispered. She said she'd already given Mom $50,000 and wouldn't enable her anymore. Mom was furious. She said Linda was selfish, keeping all the money for her perfect daughters while her own sister suffered. Valerie wiped her eyes, smearing makeup further. Mom found out about Linda's life insurance policies. She'd helped Linda set them up years ago, knew about the second policy most people didn't know existed. She had this idea, what if Linda died and Mom could collect the insurance money? So you plan to kill her? I said, my voice hollow. No. Valerie looked horrified. At first it was just a stupid fantasy, something Mom would rant about when she was drunk. But then Mom met this funeral director, Robert Hendricks. He told her about his business, how he helped people fake deaths for insurance purposes. Mom got obsessed with the idea. Rivera was taking notes, recording every word. Go on. The plan was for Linda to fake her death. They'd use a substitute body. Mom would collect the insurance money, and Linda would disappear somewhere. Start over. Mom said they'd split the money, that Linda would be free from all her responsibilities, could live how she wanted. Mom would never agree to that, Nicole said. She loved us, loved Dad. That's what she said. Valerie's face crumpled. At the last minute, Linda refused. Said she couldn't fake her death, couldn't do that to her daughters and husband. She threatened to expose the whole thing, report Mom to the police for even suggesting it. So Diane killed her, Rivera said flatly. Diane hadn't moved, sitting rigid in her chair. But she didn't deny it. Valerie nodded, tears streaming. There was a fight at the Denver house. Mom and Linda. I wasn't there, but Mom told me what happened. Linda said she was going to the police, that Mom needed help for her gambling addiction. Mom panicked. They fought. Linda fell, hit her head on the corner of the craft table that I remembered Mom's craft room. The heavy wooden table she'd used for quilting. Sharp corners. Hardwood. Mom said it was an accident, that Linda hit her head and just stopped moving. By the time Mom checked her pulse, she was gone. Valerie's voice dropped to a whisper. So Mom finished the plan. Called Hendricks, had him bring the substitute body. Used Linda's real body for the viewing, then buried the substitute in Linda's plot. Where's our mother? I demanded. Where did Diane bury her? Nevada. Somewhere in the desert outside Vegas. Mom wouldn't tell me exactly where. Said it was better if I didn't know, in case anyone asked questions. Nicole made a sound, somewhere between a sob and a scream. I grabbed her hand, held tight. The house fire, Rivera prompted. Tell me about that. Mom burned it. Destroyed any evidence of the fight, any blood or signs of what happened. Made it look like an electrical problem. The insurance payout was a bonus. Dad had been brought to the conference room, sitting quietly in the corner with an aide beside him. He'd been mostly quiet during the confrontation, watching everything with confusion. But suddenly his voice cut through the room. Clear and strong. Linda called me. Everyone turned to look at him. 2 years ago, the day before the funeral. My heart stopped. What did she say, Dad? She said Diane was dangerous. said if anything happened to her I should look at Diane. His eyes found Diane across the room. I tried to tell you, Christianah, at the funeral, but you were crying and I got confused and forgot what I was trying to say. The dementia makes me forget important things. It's okay, Pops, I said, throat tight. You remembered now. That's what matters. Dad looked at Diane with clarity I hadn't seen in months. You killed my Linda. You killed her and stole from me and used my disease against me. I hope they lock you away forever. Detective Rivera stood, pulling handcuffs from his belt. Diane Morrison, you're under arrest for fraud, identity theft, elder financial abuse, and we'll be holding you for questioning regarding the death of Linda Morrison. Nevada authorities have been contacted about a possible murder investigation. You have the right to remain silent, Rivera continued, cuffing her hands behind her back. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Diane didn't fight, didn't protest. She just stared at me and Nicole with pure hatred. Valerie Morrison, Rivera nodded to another officer. You're also under arrest for identity theft and fraud. But given your cooperation today, we'll be discussing reduced charges with the district attorney. Diane was let out of the room. She turned back. You have no idea what it was like. Watching Linda have everything while I had nothing. The perfect house, the perfect family, the perfect life. She owed me. She owed you nothing, I said. You stole her life, her identity, and her body. You don't get to play victim here. The door closed behind them. The room felt suddenly empty, hollow. Nicole and I stood there, holding hands, while our attorney packed up documents and Detective Rivera finished his notes. Dad reached for my other hand. I'm sorry I forgot. I tried to tell you. I tried. I know, Pops. I'm sorry I didn't listen. I looked at him, really looked. Grief made me miss the warning signs. I was so focused on losing Mom that I didn't see what else we were losing. Nicole squeezed my hand. Diane wanted us divided. The fight over the cabin, the inheritance, all of it. She knew if we weren't talking, we couldn't compare notes or realize we were both being targeted. But we figured it out, I said. Together, watching Diane get arrested should have felt like victory. But knowing my real mother was murdered, replaced with a stranger's body, and buried in an unmarked grave that hollowed me out. The revenge wasn't in watching her go to jail. It was in what Nicole and I did next to make sure she could never hurt anyone again. Diane Morrison faced 15 federal charges and 8 state charges. The list read like a catalog of betrayal: wire fraud, mail fraud, identity theft, elder financial abuse, insurance fraud, forgery, conspiracy. Each charge carried years of prison time. The bail hearing lasted 20 minutes. The prosecutor laid out the evidence: systematic fraud across multiple victims, financial resources hidden in offshore accounts Diane hadn't disclosed, a history of fleeing from debt collectors. The judge denied bail without hesitation. Flight risk was too high. Diane would wait for trial in county jail. Valerie's attorney negotiated a plea deal within 3 weeks. In exchange for her full testimony against Diane, she'd receive 3 years probation, mandatory restitution payments, and community service. No prison time, but her record would show felony fraud convictions. Her theater career was over before it really began. I'm sorry, Valerie told me and Nicole during a court-ordered meeting. I know that doesn't fix anything. I know you lost your mother because of what we did, but I am sorry. She looked different without the makeup and prosthetics. Younger, smaller, just a woman who'd made terrible choices under her mother's influence. You're cooperating, I said. That's what matters now. Help us make sure Diane can never do this to anyone else. The trial was scheduled for 8 months out. Plenty of time for prosecutors to build their case, for Nicole and me to prepare our victim impact statements, for the investigation into Mom's death to move forward. Nevada authorities began searching the desert outside Las Vegas in late spring. Valerie had given them general coordinates, an area near a rock formation Diane had mentioned once. They brought cadaver dogs, ground-penetrating radar. Forensic archaeologists at IT took 2 weeks to find her. The grave was shallow, unmarked, in a desolate stretch of desert where nothing grew except scrub brush and desperation. Mom had been wrapped in a tarp, buried quickly, hidden from the world. Dental records confirmed what we already knew in our hearts. Linda and Morrison, found at last. Nicole and I flew to Nevada to claim her remains. We stood in the desert where she'd been discarded like trash, and we made a promise. She'd have a proper burial, a real headstone, a place where her family could visit and remember her as she really was. The funeral was small. Just Nicole, me, Dad, and a handful of close friends who'd known Mom before everything fell apart. Helen Marsh came, and Detective Rivera, paying respects to a woman they'd never met, but whose case had changed them. Dad had his longest clarity moment in years during the service. He spoke about Mom without notes, without confusion. Remembered their first date, their wedding, the day Nicole was born, the day I was born. He talked about her laugh, her terrible cooking except for those chocolate chip cookies, her patience with his forgetfulness even before the dementia diagnosis. Linda was the best person I knew, he said, standing at her casket. She deserved better than what happened to her, better than a sister who betrayed her, better than being hidden in the desert. But she got us her daughters who fought for her, who found the truth, who brought her home. She'd be proud of you girls. We buried her in Denver, next to her parents. The headstone was simple. Linda and Morrison, beloved mother and wife, 1963 to 2022. We chose not to add, may she rest in peace. Mom had fought until her last moment. Rest wasn't what she deserved. She deserved to be remembered for her strength. Why forensic accounting skills had one final job. Recovering what could be recovered. I tracked every dollar Diane had stolen. The 3,000 monthly payments to the P.O. box. The credit cards opened in Nicole's name. The insurance payout. The money taken from the trust account. I built spreadsheets that documented every transaction, traced funds through multiple accounts, followed the money trail like a bloodhound. $87,000 was still recoverable. Sitting in accounts Diane thought were hidden. Funds she'd squirreled away for emergencies. Money she hadn't spent yet on gambling or luxury items. The court ordered full restitution. Diane's assets were seized, liquidated, distributed back to her victims. Dad received $42,000 of his stolen money back. Nicole got $17,000 to cover the credit card debts that weren't hers. The rest went to other victims we discovered along the way. The insurance companies investigated their fraud, found the fake death certificate, the corrupt funeral director connection. They demanded return of the $300,000 paid to Diane. When her accounts came up empty, they added insurance fraud to her charges that Nicole's credit was repaired with proof of identity theft. Her credit score bounced back within 6 months. The lawsuits were dropped. Her firm removed the probation from her record, apologized for doubting her. We used the recovered funds to move Dad to a better facility. Sunrise Memory Care had specialized programs for dementia patients, trained staff who understood his needs, activities designed to preserve cognitive function as long as possible. Dad had his own apartment with a kitchenette, could cook simple meals when he felt capable, had dignity and independence. Detective Rivera called us 3 months after Diane's arrest. You need to see this. He'd found 12 other families, 12 other victims of Diane's fraud schemes going back 15 years. Real estate clients she'd scammed. Elderly people she'd befriended and stolen from. Insurance fraud schemes involving fake deaths and substitute bodies. Diane hadn't just targeted our family. She'd built a career out of exploitation. Nicole and I met with the other victims. Families who'd lost parents, grandparents, life savings. People who'd been manipulated, gaslit, told they were imagining things when money disappeared or strangers appeared, claiming to be relatives. We formed a support group, met monthly at a community center, shared stories, compared notes on recovery. I used my forensic skills to help others track stolen assets, build cases against perpetrators. Nicole used her legal knowledge to navigate the complex system of restitution, lawsuits, criminal prosecution. Our tragedy became advocacy. We spoke at elder care conferences, trained facility staff to spot warning signs of financial abuse. We lobbied for stronger laws protecting vulnerable adults from family fraud. The work didn't bring Mom back, but it meant her death accomplished something. Diane's exposure led to arrests of 2 other funeral directors involved in fake death schemes. It triggered investigations into elder fraud across 3 states. It saved other families from losing what we'd lost. Nicole moved back to California after 3 months in Phoenix, helping with the investigation. But now we talked every day. Video calls, texts, photos of our lives, catching up on 2 years of silence we couldn't get back. We realized Diane's manipulation had extended far beyond Mom's death. Looking back at our childhood, we saw patterns. Diane telling Nicole that I was Mom's favorite. Diane telling me that Nicole didn't care about the family. Diane creating friction, planting seeds of resentment, making sure we never got too close. Mom had tried to keep Diane away. We understood now why she'd cut contact, why she never talked about her half-sister, why that $50,000 loan came with such pain. The cabin in Big Bear became our shared project. We'd fought over it for 2 years, each claiming exclusive right to Mom's legacy. Now we renovated it together, spent weekends replacing rotted deck boards, painting walls, updating the kitchen, created new memories in a place that held so many old ones. Remember when Mom taught us to make esmores out here? Nicole asked one evening, sitting on the new deck watching the sunset. She burned every single marshmallow, said it added character. She was terrible at camping, but she kept trying. For us, the cabin became a memorial, but not a sad one. We filled it with photos of Mom, her quilts, her recipe cards, her presents. We brought Dad up on his good days, let him sit on the deck and tell stories about bringing Mom here when they were young. Sunrise Memory Care gave Dad better quality of life than we'd hoped for. The specialized programs, the trained staff, the dignity of semi-independent living, all of it helped slow his decline. He had more good days than bad. Days when he remembered us clearly, could carry full conversations, showed flashes of his old personality. Days when the fog lifted and he was fully present. Nicole and I visited together every Sunday, brought lunch, played cards, listened to his stories. He told us things about Mom we'd never known. How she'd wanted to be a teacher but gave it up to raise us. How she'd once driven to Vegas on a whim and won $500 at blackjack. How she'd cried the day I went to college, then cried again when Nicole left, missing her daughters but proud of who we'd become. She loved you both so much, Dad said during one clear moment. Used to worry she wasn't doing enough, wasn't being a good enough mother. I'd tell her she was perfect, and she was. The facility provided grief counseling, helped Dad process Linda's real death now that we knew the truth. The therapist worked with his dementia, used techniques that helped him hold on to important memories while letting go of false ones that in his lucid moments. Dad was at peace. He knew Mom was gone, knew where she was buried, knew we'd brought her home. That knowledge settled something in him, gave him permission to grieve properly. The experience changed everything about how I approached my career. I'd been good at forensic accounting before, tracking corporate fraud, finding hidden assets in divorces, building cases for white-collar prosecutions. Now I became specialized. Elder financial abuse was my focus. I trained law enforcement agencies on red flags, taught bank employees how to spot systematic theft from elderly customers, created protocols for assisted living facilities to prevent impersonation and identity theft. My TED Talk, When Family Becomes the Fraud, went viral within days of posting. 2 million views in the first week. News outlets requested interviews. Other victims reached out with their stories that I spoke at conferences across the country. Shared our story, the warning signs we'd missed, the ways Diane had manipulated the system. Families cried listening to my presentations, recognized their own situations in what happened to us. The work was painful. Each case I took reminded me of Mom, of Dad's confusion, of the years Diane stole from us. But it was also healing. Every elderly person I helped, every family I saved from Diane's fate, it meant something. 1 year after Diane's arrest, I received a letter. Plain white envelope, no return address, postmarked from Las Vegas. Inside was a single photograph and nothing else. The photo showed Mom, younger, maybe in her 40s. She stood in front of our old Denver house, holding something in her hands I couldn't quite make out. Her expression was serious, almost worried. Flipped the photo over, handwriting on the back, faded but legible. I tried to warn you about Diane. I'm sorry I failed. Love always, Mom. The date stamped on the photo's border, May 28th, 2022. 2 weeks before her death. My hands shook holding it. Who had sent this? How had they gotten it? Why wait a year to mail it? I called Nicole immediately. Someone sent me a photo of Mom, from right before she died. Nicole, she knew. She knew Diane was dangerous, and she tried to warn us. What does the photo show? I looked closer at what Mom was holding. A cookie container. The blue one with flowers. The same container Valerie had used to bring cookies to Dad, to prove she was me. She left us clues, I whispered. The container, the treehouse reference, the sunny nickname. Mom knew something was wrong. She was trying to tell us, leaving evidence in case something happened to her. Nicole was quiet for a moment. She called Dad the day before the funeral. He remembered during the confrontation. She told him to look at Diane if anything happened. She knew she was in danger, but she couldn't stop it in time. Nicole flew to Phoenix that weekend. Together, we drove to Denver, to the cemetery where Mom was finally buried in her rightful place. The headstone was simple but perfect. Linda Morrison, beloved mother, 1963 to 2022. Fresh flowers sat in the holder, ones Nicole had placed yesterday during her own visit. We stood there together, sisters united by loss and love. I held the photograph carefully, protected in a plastic sleeve. We found your clues, Mom, I said, placing the photo at the base of the headstone. You tried to warn us. You left us everything we needed to figure it out. We finished what you started. Nicole knelt, touched the engraved letters of Mom's name. Diane can't hurt anyone else now. She's in prison for the rest of her life, probably, and we're helping other families avoid what happened to us. You'd be proud of that. The wind picked up, rustling through the trees surrounding the cemetery. For a moment, I let myself believe it was Mom, acknowledging our words, proud of her daughters who'd fought for her. Family isn't just DNA, I said quietly. It's the stories we carry, the memories we protect, the truth we refuse to let die. You taught us that, Mom, and we're teaching others. Nicole stood, slipped her hand into mine. Even in death, she led us to the truth. The container, the nickname, that phone call to Dad. All of it was her trying to protect us. We understood, finally. Mom's final act hadn't been dying. It had been fighting, leaving clues, giving us tools to find justice even after she was gone. The cabin in Big Bear became Linda's place within a year. We'd transformed it into a retreat center for families affected by elder fraud. Support groups met monthly. Counseling services were available. Legal aid provided by volunteers, financial recovery assistance offered by professionals like me. Nicole and I ran it together. She handled the legal side. I managed the financial recovery programs. We'd taken our worst experience and turned it into something that helped others heal. Dad had a room there, specially designed for his needs. Large windows overlooking the lake. Familiar furniture from his old house. Walls covered with real photos of Mom. Not the ones Diane had stolen and studied. Real memories, real moments. Real love. On the wall above his bed hung the anonymous photo. The one mailed a year after Mom's death, showing her 2 weeks before she died. Underneath, we'd placed a small plaque, she knew. She always knew. Visitors to Linda's place asked about the photo, about Mom. about what happened to our family. We told them the truth. The whole truth. Because that's what Mom had died trying to reveal. Identity theft isn't just about stolen credit cards or fake signatures. It's about someone erasing your existence while wearing your face. Diane tried to erase me, erase Nicole, and erase our mother's memory. But she forgot one thing. Family isn't just DNA. It's the stories we carry, the memories we protect, and the truth we refuse to let die. Mom left us the clues. Dad kept the secrets, even his dementia couldn't erase. And Nicole and I, we found each other again. That's the real victory. Thank you for staying with me through this journey. If you've ever dealt with identity theft, elder abuse, or family members who manipulate and gaslight, you're not alone. This channel, Revenge with Alice, is about more than just payback. It's about finding the truth when everyone around you is lying. It's about protecting the people who can't protect themselves. And it's about refusing to let someone rewrite your story. Drop a comment telling me, what would you have done if you discovered someone impersonating you? How would you have handled it? I read every single comment, and your stories matter. Hit that subscribe button if you believe the truth always comes out, even when it's buried. And share this video with someone who needs to hear that family secrets don't stay buried forever. Remember, you're not just watching these stories, you're part of a community that refuses to stay silent. Until next time, this is Alice reminding you, your identity is yours. Protect it.